so many. Glad we have so many visitors tonight. It's great to see you. Folk from Cumbernauld, Glasgow. Can't narrow it down any further than that. Scotland. It seems like and Philippines, and of course, Birmingham, Alabama. We're going to be tonight afterwards, after our celebration of the gospel tonight. Praise God, song, we'll have a chance to talk and hope you will stay with us a little while after. Warm yourself up later on tonight. In just a few minutes, well, just a moment, I was going to ask Edwin, our song Stephen did a fine job last night. Edwin did a fine job as well tonight, and I'll set up for the rest of the week. So we're glad you can be here. Zaccheus, that's one of the queued up. So we're going to find happy today. We'll introduce the way just a little while. Adam will lead our opening prayer, and then at the end of our tonight, Bill will close us out with the one prayer. But now this time, we're going to ask anyone to come forward and praise God through song.
Good evening. You all let's stand and sing song number 128. 128. I know that my Redeemer lives and ever prays for me. I know eternal life He gives from sin and sorrow free. I know that my Redeemer lives. I know eternal life He gives. I know my Redeemer. He will that I should wholly be God indeed. Then His holy face may well set my free. I know that my Redeemer lives. I know eternal life He gives. Oh, that my Redeemer lives. I know that I'm sinful and His saving grace is nigh. I know that He will come again to take me home. I know that my Redeemer lives. I know His life biggest. I know my Redeemer. I know I will stand and praise prepare for me. The hearts are made with hands most wonderful to see. I know that my I know eternal life He gives. I know that my Redeemer lives. sing song number 540. 5-1. Reading how I love to proclaim, reading by the blood of the Lamb, reading through that mercy, and shine forever I am. Reading by the blood of the Lamb, reading is silent forever I am. Reading and so happy in Jesus. No language that you can tell. I'm aware of His presence. With me continue. Redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed, His silent forever I am. I know I shall see in His beauty the King in whose law I delight, who lovingly guardeth my foot and giveth me songs in the night. Redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed, His silent forever I am.
Father, we're so grateful for every blessing that you've given us today, that we enjoy at least to enable us to be here tonight to listen to your word. Father, we're so thankful that you've provided that word to us, that you have not left us the things that you'd have us know, the things that we need to know to spend eternity with you. And we're thankful for men like DeWayne who have dedicated their lives to studying that word and have abilities to speak to us about the things that you have recorded for us and preserved for us. Many for and those that we love, those that are close to us who have some health issues that prevent them from being asked that wherever they are and whoever is caring for them, we ask that you restore them health as quickly as possible. And that once again we can, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Before the lesson, let's stand and sing song number 480. Sure as Jesus is mine, oh, what a foretaste of glory divine, heir of salvation of God, born of His Spirit, washed in His blood. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Perfect salvation, perfect delight, visions of rapture hours on my side, angels descending from above, of mercy, whispers of love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my God, Savior all the day long. Fair face of Michelle, always I rise. I in my Savior, watching and waiting, looking above, filled with His goodness, lost in His love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long.
David, is there a song you've chosen to sing after the tonight?
Yeah.
What we can do is if we turn our books to that, we can all put our markers in it. Because DeWayne's trying to catch it out, the song leaders the last couple of times. And we'll just try and get ahead of the game tonight. So everyone looks that up. Let me tell a little bit about DeWayne. It's been a privilege to have him back. He was here 2.5 years ago with Jane. Jane's not well today, so she can't be with us. She's probably eaten too much this morning, just bringing that food out. Well, no, not at all, just not feeling the best. But hopefully we'll see her tomorrow, and hope she's doing a lot better by the end of tonight as well. I know DeWayne and Jack went down to somewhere, they told me actually, I forgot. The Falkirk Wheel, yes, marvel Scottish engineering at its finest. DeWayne began preaching in 1970. He's originally from the Keaton, Alabama, and spent a number of years in Wisconsin, so he's been a Green Bay Packers fan. And he's probably a wee bit taken aback. We knew who Vince Lombardi was, we talked about him yesterday. And we knew that were called cheeseheads and things like that as well. He's been preaching for these past 45 years and preaches currently with the River Chase congregation in Birmingham, Alabama, if they like to say, in that neck of the woods. He's a very fine gospel preacher. I remember the first job I had preaching full time, I suppose if you call it that, was at Edinburgh. Jack was what Andrew Garvin who got me in that position. And one of the first things I wanted to study when I was doing some personal study time when I had it back then was faith. And I would get my, in fact, you can open up my Thayer's lexicon, see all the wee highlights and the notes that I made, trying to figure out, trying to get a deeper understanding of faith. And had I known that I only had to wait 24 years for the rain to come across the priest last night's lesson, then it was the policy about a lot of those marks we said tonight. It was a very encouraging night with Zaccheus tonight. Is there somebody to come up and do a reading?
Nobody asked.
And I'll also point this out, sorry?
No one asked.
No one asked. I would probably think of how many outbursts you're in tonight's lesson. That's what to say someone else hasn't. But well, let me point this out. We are recording these sermons and they'll be available on MP3. We also have sermons on YouTube. You can actually follow the entire worship service live if you can't come back tomorrow night. If you want some details, you can ask me about that. Or you can go back, you can find it. And you can find the channel tonight's lesson on lessons as well. Sunday mornings will cut because of the battery and the computer on for too long. But if information about that, you can do that. We're ready for us. 852. So you put your markers at 852. We'll be singing this after tonight's lesson. Really excited to hear the gospel.
Thank you, Graham. If I stand here, you cannot see the screen, correct? Yes, correct. I have while I was setting up here, whether to even use the screen. But I think we will, and get out of this way in just a second, because all that we need tonight is the scripture that we're going to. And I think it would be better to follow that scripture than the screen, although they are going to be very similar to each other. So I'll try to remember this, but if I forget, answer your Bible and follow along. And we will be staying in the book of Luke tonight, although you can take a look at other passages if you would like to. Let me put this screen up, because it's going to be the heart of what we're looking at tonight. And I want you to be push down, turn the power on or up. Down, stop, switch on. And we have 3 questions. 3 questions from each and every one of us. 3 questions from us to answer in our hearts. And it doesn't matter what the answer is. There's no right or wrong. There's just honesty or falsehood. So answer it honestly, and you're answering it correctly. And because this is for each of us to determine where we are and exactly where we stand right now. First question is, does God? And your answer to that question may be, yes, I know He exists. Your answer to that question may be, I don't know. Your answer to that question may be, no, He does not. And whatever the answer is, especially if it's one of the last 2 answers, I do not know, or no, He does not. We would love to have a conversation. The brethren here would love to have a conversation. The second, if you answer yes, God exists, then the next question is, has He spoken? Us that God has spoken to us through His Son, Jesus Christ. It says that in the book of Hebrews, chapter 1. In the former days, He talked in these last to us through His Son, Jesus Christ. And as we pointed out in earlier lessons, and we're not going to spend the time on it tonight, God speaks to His Son means we read what God says to us in the Bible, and specifically in the New Testament, in the New Covenant of Jesus Christ. Because God is speaking to us through Him in His that was given to the apostles, which we have recorded for us in the New Testament. And again, if your answer is, no, I don't believe He's speaking today, or if your answer is, yes, I believe He's speaking to me, but I don't believe it's through the New Testament, we would love it. And I'd love to have a conversation with you if you would like. It will be up to you. Nothing's going to be for you. But if you've answered yes, God exists, and you answered yes, He has spoken, then there's a third question. Is of utmost importance. Not any more important than the others, but equally as important as the rest. And that third question is, what are you doing about it? That's the question you and I have to answer, no matter what stage of life we are in. And no matter how long we may life in Jesus Christ. What are you doing? What am I doing? And I really want to change it around to that. Because as I go through this lesson tonight, I don't want to think about you. I want you to think about anyone else. I want you to think about yourself. And as we go through this tonight, I want you to be thinking about you first. What am I doing about it? Doing about what God, who really lives, and who one day I will stand in front of, that God who has spoken to me, what am I doing about what He has said? That's a serious question. And one that each and every one of us. So how does this take us to Zaccheus? Jane and I landed in London on Tuesday, exhausted, for a very short night across the Atlantic. On Wednesday, For our first day in London, we had lined out some things that we wanted to do, and the first thing we did was to go to Buckingham Palace. And we tried to plan it to get 11:15. We got there a little before. We followed the crowd in. The crowd was already gathered. We got there. There was no sense in us crossing the street to stand over by the gates because they were already packed. And the crowds were already spilled out into the parade area and across the streets. People were all over the place, and they were still streaming in. And the police officers on horses were directing traffic else. And a lady walked up to me, having no idea who I was nor where I was from. And when I opened my mouth and she heard my southern English, she was probably shocked, but she came up to me and said, "What's going on here?" And I said, "We're waiting for the changing of guard." Oh! So she goes back and tells the crowd, that her little group of people, they are waiting for the change of guard. So they got excited about that, and they all tried to find them a place to stand. And I couldn't help but think about this lesson for us tonight that comes from the book of Luke, chapter 19. We're going to start in Luke chapter 8. We're not there already. Where Jesus is walking through the street of Jericho. May have been a crowd very much like that one that I was a part of Wednesday. We know that it was a crowd that drew a great attention because even a blind man knew something. And he was screaming out, "What is it? What's happening?" And they finally told him. And when they told him what was happening, he screamed even louder. And he made even more noise. And they tried to get him to hush or be quiet. But he would maybe all Scottish would be quiet. I don't know. But they tried to get him to be quiet, and he would not. He got louder and louder until request. The whole story intrigues me. It challenges me. It comforts me. And it grabs me. Sometimes we allow religion to get in the way of simply coming to Jesus. Sometimes we let our own thoughts and our ideas about ourselves get in the way of us simply coming to Jesus. What would it be like if Jesus walked down your street? I have some news for you. He does every day. And he's been doing it every day since before you were born. He's been doing it every day his word came to the community where you live. I'm there in every individual's house that's here tonight. He's in your house. You have a copy of his word. And he is looking for you to invite him in. To your heart, to your mind. Have a conversation. This is the story of two men who were on the street that Jesus walked through. One is talked about in chapter 18. And that we're going to focus on is talked about in chapter 19. Let's try to follow along with the slides. I'll try to put them. So how do we do this? How do we go about doing what number 3 question is all about? What am I doing about it? What do I need to do something about it? What is it I need to engage in, and what is it that I... Two men on the same street. There's some question as to which was first. Luke will write it as if the blind man was first, as Jesus was coming into Jericho, and Zaccheus was the second going out of Jericho. And then it seems to be a play where they may be different because of things that are said, talked about in the book of Luke. The blind man is talked about in the book of Matthew, talked about in the book of Mark, and we get different information when we go to Matthew and Mark that adds to our understanding what's going on. The first is a blind beggar. A man who is blind and he is begging for help. To the rest of the crowd, Father. He becomes even more of a, and they try to get him to hush. But even at that, he is the man that makes you feel guilty when you walk by him. He is the man that makes you wish you could do something, but you can't do enough help. You can't do enough to take away his blindness. And one day, he will need to be there tomorrow. And as Jesus said about those that are poor, you will always have them with you. You may help them whenever you wish. But he was a bother to the crowd. The other was a wealthy chief tax collector. And this wealthy chief tax collector to the crowd was a hated individual. He was despised as a traitor to his country. He was despised as an individual who had no concern for his people. He would have been despised, and no one in that crowd would have made room for him. Because he was short of stature, he wanted to see Jesus, and so he climbs up the sycamore tree, and that part of the story we're all familiar with. Which tells you something about ever how he may have felt about his size, his shortness of stature. He didn't allow it to stop him from bringing attention to himself. And climbing because he wanted to see Jesus. Even though everyone around would know why he was having to climb the tree. Because he's too short to see him otherwise. But that didn't matter. Something else mattered. And so he climbed the sycamore tree. Jesus was on his way to the cross. Let that sink in. And his thoughts are not so focused on himself and where he's going that he pays no attention. He has no schedule. When those horses and soldiers started marching into Buckingham, they got out of the way and they allowed nothing to detract them. They had a schedule, they had a purpose, they stopped. Not so with Jesus. There is a man, his name, and he stops. There is a man in the tree, and he stops. And he leaves the streets and goes to his house. Even though in a little over a week, he knows he will be dead. But only for 3 days. But with all that haste, these men are important. Jesus is on my street and he's on yours. Does he have time for what's going on in your life? Does he want you to take the time to be with him so he can help you going on in your life? The blind man and the man up in the tree will tell you, oh yes, in time. As a matter of fact, it's the only he's after. Of all the things, it's the only thing he's after. For you to allow him a conversation with your heart and your mind. That's all he wants. So why these two men? Of all the people on this in Jericho, why these two men? Let's take a look. Open your Bible. You've already done that. The only reason I say that to you is to cover up that I need to open mine. We're going to start in Luke chapter 18. We're going to read through, and I'll try to put up the other things on the screen as we come. Verse 35 of Luke chapter 18, the Bible will tell us in the book of Luke, then it happened, as he was coming near Jericho, that a certain blind man sat by the road begging. Matthew says there were two. So why does Luke say there's one? Well, there could be a couple of reasons. But whatever they might be, I think Mark might give us a hint. Because the book of Mark will tell us that there was one. But then Mark does something that neither Luke nor Matthew does. He tells us his name. He tells us that his name was Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus. Bar means son of. And so this blind man was the son of Timaeus. That means possibly, and I don't know for certain, but this blind man or his father was well known. But to whom? To the people in Jericho on that day, or to the early church? I lean toward the idea, and I may be absolutely wrong about it because it's just my thought and just my opinion, but I lean toward the idea that Mark knew when he wrote his gospel, and Luke knows when he writes his. Bartimaeus and or his father are well known in the body of Christ and are well known in the church. And maybe that's why the focus in Luke and the focus in Mark is on one, even though there were two. Others think it may be that Bartimaeus may have been the primary speaker. Don't know. But Matthew lets us know there were two. There were two that were healed and both followed. But there's something key about Bartimaeus. And there's something key enough about him that he becomes the one that also Luke focuses on, following what Mark had written. And I don't know what that key is. My guess is just simply what I've already told you. But anyway, this man, this blind man, the Bible will tell us, here's this great multitude passing by, and he says, what's going on? What are all these folks doing here? So they told him that Jesus of Nazareth was passing by. He knew that name. He had heard that name. He had heard about what that name had done. And hearing the name Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. Look at what it says next. he cried out, saying, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. He was told Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus from the city of Nazareth. He knew Jesus well enough by the name to know this is the Son of David. This is the Christ. This is the Messiah. So he begins to scream, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And he keeps screaming. And they try to get him quiet, those that are around him, but he pays no attention to them. And he continues to cry out, Son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stops. And either he signals or they understand when he stops. An individual standing next to the blind man will pick him up, pick both of them up, and say, you can relax now. He's calling for it. You have an audience with the Son of David. You have an audience with Jesus. And they bring him to Jesus. And Jesus' question to him is, what do you want me to do for you? Wow. Did he know all that he could do? Yes, he had some idea. But anyway, when Jesus raises the question, what do you want me to do for you? He says, Lord, I want to receive my sight. You know this story about these two individuals today, or about two men that are blind, both wanting to see? Here's a man who is physically blind and wants to receive, and is blind in his knowledge. And he welcomes his eyes to be opened to true knowledge. He wants to know. The blind man says, I want to see. And what does Jesus say? Your faith has made you well. Stop for the search. Will always stop for the asker. The one who is asking and believing, the one asking and believing in Jesus. That's what we have in both of these. Both of them are seeking and asking, but not anybody and not everybody. Jesus wants to know Jesus. Blind man wants Jesus to deal with his eyes. And so they come trusting Jesus, the one who can help, and the one who can do something, and the one who will do it. And Jesus tells him, your faith has. And so what does the blind man do? Matthew says both of them do it. They rejoice and they follow him. They follow. I get the idea that Mark names him because in Mark's day, when Mark writes his account of the gospel of Jesus Christ, he's still following him. And he's known to the church, but I don't know that for sure. But I know that he's following him here because that's the way that it is. Okay, Because we're going to come across reviews along the way. I won't bother with the reviews, but you can read them and you can keep up with them. So let's go to the next chapter, chapter 19. We're going to pick up with verse 3. We're going to kind of follow it. I'll put some things up on the screen that you can see as we go through it. Verse 1 of chapter 19, and Jesus entered and passed through Jericho. Now behold, there was a man named Zaccheus, who was a chief tax collector. He had other tax collectors under. He was a collector of high position. And his job had made him so. He sought to see who Jesus was. He had heard about him. He had to. He had heard about him enough to know that I want to know more about this man. I want to know who he is. He may have had individuals that he knew who had been healed by Jesus. He may have had individuals who had told him they had heard that Jesus taught. He may have known about Jesus and also known the Old Testament scriptures about the Christ. And that this one was going to be the Christ. Whoever he was, he had heard about Jesus. And because he had heard about Jesus, he wanted to see for himself who he was. Of coming to know him. Because he thought he was someone important. And he embarrassed himself in order to be able to get. So he climbs the tree. He would put himself beneath his position to get to know him. He's a searcher. He is looking. Jesus never walks by such people. Never ignores such people. He never leaves such people alone. And the blind man, this Jesus was coming that way. How do you know these things? Zaccheus would have never known who Jesus was or even know his name if he hadn't heard something about him. Cities held on to what they heard. And what they held on to was what they'd been hearing all their life. And because they were holding on to what they had been hearing all their life, they saw no reason to pay attention to Jesus. And they would pay no attention to him. They would pay no attention to him when he came to Jerusalem, and they would put him to death. Because they had no interest in him. That's not Zaccheus. The Sadducees, on the other hand, didn't hold to traditions. They held to what they were hearing out of their own mind, out of their own thoughts. They were traditionalists. They cared nothing about what the law said. They cared nothing about what the law of Moses taught. They only cared about what was politically today. And we can ourselves today, us. They weren't listening to Jesus either. But that wasn't true of the blind man. And it wasn't true of Zacchaeus. These two groups, Pharisees and Sadducees, were listening to Jesus. Neither one of them had any desires. Neither one of them had any time to listen to Jesus. Neither one of them had any idea that listening to Jesus would be of any benefit, any use to them. They weren't about listening to Jesus. And they weren't a part of the group that Jesus stopped for that day. He stopped for two of the disciples that were already following him. He stopped for 3 men. 2 blind men and a man named Zaccheus. Verses 5 and 6. Verses 5 and 6. And when Jesus came to the pool, he looked up and he saw him and he said to him, Zaccheus, haste and come down. I'm at her house. Of all the things I expected, do you think that's one of them? For Jesus to be walking along this road, and he comes to the tree, and he looks at his eyes. And he focuses on his eyes, and he knows his name. Zaccheus, come on down. I'm staying at your house today. Well, if it had been me, let me ask my wife first to make sure things are okay at the house. And it might have been my, you got to be kidding me. Not today. How much time have I got? What do I need to get ready? Nothing. He's not coming to receive, he's coming to give. Nothing. Look at Zaccheus. He comes down out of that tree in great haste with great joy. He goes to his house. Hold on to that. Because there's another verse. Let me get through these. Let's see what we missed. Oh, yeah. Let's think about this. Imagine the intimidation of a visit from Jesus. You think of how intimidated you. Jesus said to you, I'm coming home with you. The intimidation of an individual who is no respecter of person. The intimidation of a person who absolutely will not tell you what you want to hear, the truth. And will tell you what you need to hear. But he will not tell you what you want to hear. He's not here to build you up. He's here to bring you to be. Second. The intimidation of having a man come to your house who is a man of truth. A man of truth. Much more than that, a man who knows everything about you. A man who knows your heart and your mind and everything you've ever done, and it doesn't matter to him. He still wants to come. And he wants to be with you. He wants to have with you. What impact did this visit have on the way he saw himself? What impact on his? What impact did this visit have on the way he treated other people? What impact took place when this man came to his house? They have an answer for that in just a second. But there's another verse before we get there. And it's verse 7. But when they saw it, who's they? The rest of the people in the crowd. When they saw, complained and murmured. They complained and murmured, saying, he has gone to be a guest with a man who is a sinner. I think too often, and I'm not sure about this, but I'm not so sure we need to read verse 8 as a response to verse 7. I think verse 7 is an interlude in there to us that Jesus has already dealt with times in his. And I don't think in verse 8, or there's at least a possibility of looking at it. Let's look outside the box a little bit and think about verse 8 as being a verse that may be dealing with Jesus being in Zacchaeus' house and not being a response or a defense from what everybody's murmuring about. But God is murmuring, and He knows what's going on. We have this problem in the United States. I hope you don't have it here. But I raise this question because of the problem we have in the United States, and that is, why do we think that forbidding an association with certain others is necessary for us to be righteous? Why do we think that if we're going to be righteous before God, then we must not associate with others? Because if we do, we associate with those that are not righteous. Why do we think that? Well, the reason we think that sometimes is because of 1 Corinthians 15:33. Paul said, don't be deceived. It corrupts good habits or good morals. There's truth in that. There's truth that if we're not careful with regard to the ones we associate with, they can pull us away from God. That's not the problem is being dealt with in verse 7. In verse 7, it was the idea that the Pharisees had that if you associate with somebody who we consider not to be righteous, then you are not righteous because of your association with them. Jesus said, you can. I came for sinners that need the doctor. Jesus came to be a friend to sinners. So, in understanding the wisdom that's necessary between these two ideas, well, I think it's two simple questions. What's the reason behind my association? And what am I doing to them? Am I them toward Jesus? And what am I doing to me? Am I allowing them away? If I'm allowing them to move me away from Jesus, or if my association with them keeps me from moving toward Jesus, then I need to reconsider. But if my association with individuals, is it move them toward Jesus? And to be their friend and to show them how it belongs to Christ. And I need to be associated. And I need to be with them. So in spite of the wisdom that Jesus, in 1 Corinthians 15:33, Jesus condemns the attitude of the gossipers in verse 7. He's going to be with sinners. Jesus ignores it. He's dealt with it before, and he pays no attention to it. Yes, he's going to the house of a man who the world would consider a sinner. But he knows something about this man. And that's why he's going. Verse 8. Look at it to humor me, just from the standpoint of it being a response to Jesus' visit in the house. Jesus has come to his home. Jesus has been there. Then Zaccheus stood and he said to the Lord, Lord, look, I give half of my goods to the poor, and if I have taken anything from anyone by false accusation, I restore fourfold. Change. Some translations indicate that it's changed. Some don't, like this one. It doesn't seem that this has been his constant practice. It does seem to indicate what brought about the change. He saw himself in the mirror. What's the mirror? Jesus. The word of truth from God. Changed. He was not staying like he was. Do you notice something to see and we need to think about? There wasn't anything wrong with the tax collector in the mind of the other Jews. And he no longer, which would have been the very thing the Sadducees and the Pharisees or the other Jews would have. And change mind went to Zaccheus' house. That's where Jesus says it. In verse 9, Jesus said to him, today, this is why I say there was change. Today, salvation, because he also is a son of Abraham. What did he mean by that? Did he mean by that he is a descendant of Abraham? No, he's going to tell Paul on in the book of Romans. He is a child of Abraham because he is a child of faith. Man and this Zaccheus have in common faith. They heard about this. And they both wanted to invite him, knowing they both wanted something from him that only he could give. And they knew he could give it. They wanted to know him. This faith, Jesus came to save the lost, not to shun them, not to disassociate from them, not to avoid them. He came to save the lost. That's what he's doing on this road to Jericho. On his way to die for all the sinners in the world, that's what he's doing. It's what he did every day of his life. They do not interrupt his schedule. They are not a bother. He's ready to stop. He's ready to talk. He's ready to go home. We do that by going, by kindness, and by truth. We do that by going to be with them, showing them kindness, and showing them the truth, and showing them Jesus. Change is why Jesus went to that house. And it is exactly what occurred when he went to that house. How many were on that street to Jericho that day, or that street going through Jericho that day? And Jesus never stopped. And Jesus never went to them. They weren't asking. They weren't seeking. They weren't looking. Some on that street were following him that had already been looking and had already found. There were others that were there out of curiosity. There were others that were there trying to find something wrong with him. There were others that were there to see what he would do wrong. They weren't looking. They weren't knocking. They weren't seeking. How many were seeking to learn who Jesus was? I think there were 3. And all 3 found him. There won't be many. This book is the book given to us by Jesus because God is speaking to us through him. You hold it in your hand, you have it in your house. You can buy one anywhere just about in this city where they sell books. Jesus is walking by. Are you interested in coming to know him? Are you interested in finding out what he can do for you? And what he can give to you? Are you interested in finding out about life, the Son of the living God? He's ready to stop. He's ready to come into your heart. He's ready to come into your mind. He's ready to allow you to get to know him. All you got to do is ask. All you got to do is pick it up. All you got to do is say, Lord, let me help you. Help me find you. And ask us. If you don't know how to stop, pick it up and read it. But for all of us, every single one of us have problems. Every single one of us are walking a life. How often are you stopping to let Jesus have conversation with you and invite him into your house to let the man of truth, and the man who's no respecter of persons, and the man who knows everything that you're doing, how often do you stop every day to allow him to change, to put you in the direction that you need to go? We're walking toward God. 3 were on that street in Jericho. How many are here tonight to come to church? How many are here in Cumbernauld? Are you in Christ? Are you ready to put him on? Be washed with him in baptism? Allow his blood to wash your sins away. Do you need to come home to him? You need to respond to his invitation we offer to you. Let's together we stand and as we sing.
When the trumpet of the Lord shall sound, the time shall be no more, and the morning breaks eternal, bright and fair. When the sailor shall gather over on the other shore, and the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, when the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. On that bright and cloudless morning, when the dead in Christ shall rise, and the glory of his resurrection share. When his chosen ones shall gather to their home beyond the skies, and the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, 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 I'll be there. Let us labor for the Master from the dawn till setting sun. Let us talk of all his wondrous love and care. Then when all of life is over and our work on earth is done, and the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, when the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, when the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, when the roll
Father, I'm so grateful and thankful for this time of fellowship, this time of worship, Father, this time of this presence. Father, we thank you for everyone that's here, for their desire to learn more about you, for their desire to get to know you, more, for the men like DeWayne, for this effort and knowledge about you, for teaching us your word tonight. Father, we hope and we pray that you take tonight's lesson into our hearts, and Father, that you realize you want to know you as well. And Father, we know that there are people here tonight that yet to know you. Father, we just hope that tonight will open their eyes that they will see you. Father, we thank you for everything, especially and Father, as we leave this place tonight, you be with us as always throughout the week and bring us here again tomorrow night safely. Father, we also thank you for those refreshments. Thank you for those imperfections. Father, we thank you for everything. In His name.
When Moses came down out of the mountain to the law of God, the people could glory of God in anything out from and serving Moses. So they asked him to wear a veil. But when Christ died, that veil that separated man from the presence of God, and the arm was torn asunder. God wants to encounter us face to face. He wants to come to where we are. He wants to see us. He wants to meet us. And He wants to tell us how much He loves us and He wants us back. And tonight, your gift came tonight as a favour to a member of your family, or a friend, or to a neighbour. You just wanted to be here to help. That's how I became a Christian. George invited me along, and I just went along because my mum said that. And I stand before you 27 years later as a Christian and because a friend asked me to come and hear about Jesus. So we thank you for that. That was a great. And we encourage you to have a wee cup of tea with us. If you've got a question, something you want to ask, remember that you want to just clarify a point we made or find out more, just encourage you in your own thinking for that journey with God and want to ask more. Please don't leave here with that question in your heart. Talk to someone about it. Let us know what it is. There's people here who care. And we hope that you'll find that to be the case. Stay just a little bit. With us. DeWayne will be speaking tomorrow night, but you're listening to
plus Daniel 2, plus Joel 2,
next. Those are next. So plan to be with us for that tomorrow night, and then he'll be here Wednesday night as well. Let's have a cup of tea together, and thank you for your presence with us this evening. God bless you.